Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you all for joining us. We are going to go ahead and start the session. Alhamdulillah, we're very excited to be together for this. And so we will start, as we start many things, in the best way possible with Fatiha together so we have a productive meeting and a productive time together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil
Alamin. Ar-Rahman
مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Bismillah. Thank you everybody for coming and for joining us. We are very excited to be together, alhamdulillah, and to have this be something that we have with a larger group as well, inshallah, besides our students at school. We did have a very good session earlier with middle schoolers, and we wanted to expand on that tonight. And I know some parents are joining us, which is also very good, because we want to be able to make sure that we're all getting answers to questions, but also that we are thinking about things in the way that brings us together, inshallah, and gives us more benefit by being together. So alhamdulillah for that. So we do have two extremely wonderful people joining us, and I really do thank both of them for such short notice. I called everybody yesterday to get everyone together today, so alhamdulillah for that. So what we'll do is, people also have time constraints. So we will have our first speaker, Brother Tariq, Touré, speak for a bit, and I think he has to leave by 6:30 or so. So inshallah, Tariq, we get as much from you as possible before you have to head out. And then we will switch it over to Imam Magid, who also has a time restraint. I know he's doing some work as well. So with that, I will go ahead and start. And I am really excited about introducing Brother Tariq, because he is somebody that I've watched actually grow up over the years. He comes from West Baltimore, and he has been doing so many different things, but the main things that I want to point out to all of us is that he is an artist and he's also an advocate, which is a beautiful combination of things, because really he works on things that are from his heart and it reaches other people's hearts. And he's also been working so hard on creating advocacy avenues, so how to actually make things happen through getting the right people together and also getting the message to the right people. So part of his art is advocacy, and part of his advocacy is art. So that's something we all aspire to. We all want to be able to do that in our lives, inshallah. So he's really helped us to see how to do that. And I'm hoping, inshallah, that we have much more interaction with you, Brother Tariq, with the school. I know, we've tried many different times to connect, but we want to have you be a part of our school as much as we can, inshallah, moving forward. And I'll leave it at that, but if you want to highlight any part of what you've been doing as part of the conversation, we would appreciate that. So what I had asked Brother Tariq to kind of give us some perspective on current events, what's actually happening from the perspective of somebody who's an activist, how did we get here? And then what do we collectively as a community need to think about? So we want advice from you, Brother Tariq, and also to give us a sense of what should we, and we have the whole group here. We have middle schoolers who are wondering what they can do. We also have parents wondering what they should do, but then we also have as collective, what should we be doing as a group, and then in our own lives and in our own hearts. And we've talked earlier with students about racism. We've talked about privilege. We've talked about setting up for social justice and being advocates. But I think what we can gain from you is a little bit more direction and so on. So I'll open it up to you, but I will say to everybody here, if you have questions and comments you want to make, go ahead and put them into the chat. I think Brother Ismail is going to make it so we can kind of look at that and pull those questions up so that everybody gets a chance, but also that we can keep with the time. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and we'll direct them to Brother Tariq as we go, inshallah. So Bismillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum to everyone at Al-Fatih and everybody who's listening, all the students, the parents, and the staff, particularly for reaching out to me. Some days I'm slippery at getting in contact with, but Ustad Afifa is perseverant. So Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for reaching out. And this is critical that we have these sorts of conversations, especially since Allah has bestowed His rahmah within this trial. We are on lockdown in a way, but at the same time, Allah has decreed that we will have technology that will allow us to be able to do this. So this is the first sort of plague thing that we've experienced as humankind, that we can contact whoever, whenever, as much as possible. So this is kind of odd. The first part of this, I'll address to the beautiful students there. When you're in the halls of your school, and well, the halls of your home now, or the halls of your laptops, and I have my own little tribe here. I have a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old. And so my 6-year-old, she has to do her work virtually now, just like everybody else. So she's doing her math, her reading. She's doing her Quran lesson virtually, which is a struggle. And literally this morning, we were trying to drill Surah Qaria in her head before her lesson tomorrow. So we'll see. You all have to make dua for me and for her, so she has it. I say that because it can be uncomfortable trying to talk this way, because you all probably want to be around your friends and the people that you made a great friendship with and love now. The nature of this world is that it's a test. And so this entire thing that we're experiencing right now is a test for us. So the fact that you all have to do your classes virtually now is a test for your patience. So for those of you who are like me, when I sat in class, I had a hard time sitting still. Like my older brother, Mohamed, he would tell you, I have a hard time sitting still. Sister Afifa can attest to that. So for those of you who had a hard time sitting still, you now got to sit still in front of a camera, and your teacher probably can't watch you when you walk off or you play or anything like that. You kind of have to be a captain of your own self to make sure that you do your work and everything. And that's important right now when we're having these conversations. Many of you know that a man took the life of another man unjustly recently. And that many of you may be learning now that this has been happening here in this country for a long time now. And for me, when I think about that, and I think about what the lessons you all can learn from this, is that in those moments when these incidents are happening, there's a critical thing happening. In a split second, you have adults choosing not to be proper captains of themselves, if that makes sense. They're choosing at these particular moments that they're not going to think about their actions and be patient and be rational about how they treat other human beings. And that is having some very, very horrible results. So I just want to be frank with you all with that. People are choosing not to be captains of themselves. As Muslims, we are supposed to be the utmost captains of ourselves. What does that mean? Muslims are always thinking about how they are acting in the world, how they are behaving, right? You all learn Sirah at school. The reason that you have Sirah, the reason it's been recorded, is because the Muslims, the believers that were around Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they valued how much he was a captain of himself so much that the very ways me and you eat, walk, talk, and behave and use the bathroom and everything have been written down. So we would have a roadmap, right? So we would know how to be captains of ourselves, right? To be responsible for what we do personally. And so the outcome when people don't do that, they make horrible mistakes, but they also intentionally harm other people. The other part of this is that you all are in school, and you all should be, as best as possible, learning about people who are not like you. Meaning there may be people in your school who don't look like you. They may come from different places as you. They may be talk a different language. None of these points, right? None of these things that make us different should be ways in which we look down on each other, right? Because if we're looking down on each other, we won't be able to truly appreciate this gift of like being different. I want to tell you guys a little very small, quick story, if I have the time, Sister FIFA. So a long time ago, there was an orange cow, there was a red cow, and there was a green cow, and there was a lion. And so one day the lion approached the orange cow, and he said, I know you're having fun with your buddies grazing, and you guys are having a good time. And the lion said, but we're okay. We have a good relationship, right? Like, we're okay. The orange cow said, yeah, of course, man, we're cool. He said, I would appreciate it if you let me eat the yellow cow. And the orange cow said, what? That's my friend. Like, he's like, no, we're friends, but I just want to eat him. You still have somebody else out here to graze and be in friendship with, right? And so the orange cow sat on, he thought about it, and then the lion came back. He said, well, what's your decision? And he said, okay, cool. I still have somebody to talk to, so fine. And so the lion gobbled the yellow cow up. And so after the lion is finished with his meal, it got hungry again. Its stomach is rumbling. So it comes back to the orange cow and it says, hey, your friend, the red cow, is there any way that I could eat him as well? And the orange cow's like, hey, no way. I'm not going to have anybody to talk to while I'm grazing and out here in the field. And the lion said, you'll be able to talk to me. Like, I'll talk to you. I talk to you all the time. What are you talking about? And then the orange cow said, all right, I guess that's a good point. And then, so he thought on it. And the next day the lion came and he said, what's your decision? He said, all right, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and eat them. Don't be loud about it. Just eat them though. I'll look the other way. And so he ate them. And then when he was finished, his stomach started rumbling, right? And the lion was like, hey, orange cow, can I eat you now? And you know what the orange cow said? He said, you ate me when I let you eat the yellow one. He said, you ate me the very moment that I let you eat the yellow one was the time that you ate me. And I relate this story because there may be people in our midst, people we love dearly, our friends, our classmates, that may be suffering from other things that are attacking them. We as Muslims have to be diligent about how much we stick up for their rights so that no lions ever even think about eating our friends, right? So they even, it doesn't even cross their mind. And so that's like a little play story that I learned a long time ago, but it makes sense now because you all are walking into a world now where so much technology, and we're experiencing a world now that you can just scroll up if you see something horrible happening. You can be indifferent. You can it doesn't affect me. right? Why should I even care? But we have to understand that when we let other people and their rights become subject to persecution, that is the very moment we're letting ourselves become subject to persecution. And Islam does not dictate that. The third part about it that is that we want to make sure that we learn as much about our differences as possible, right? So as students, you should be like researching everything possible about the people who are right next to you, right? The people that are right next to you, learn about them so we can have respect for each other. For my dear parents, I'm not gonna be hard on y'all. But what I would say is, as a parent of a 6-year-old, as a Black Muslim parent of a 6-year-old, we make dua every day in the morning, that when we send our children into school and when they interlock with their little brothers and sisters and they're sharing their snacks and their fruit roll-ups and all of that, and you know, they're chilling and they're doing their kid thing, that our own baggage doesn't come on the table for them. That our own baggage at home, whatever we've learned that is improper, whatever we've learned that degrades other people, that it doesn't come into play. We try our very best, to not have that come into play. And I want to really mention that because we know our children are a product of ourselves, right? They literally do exactly and say exactly what we do. Like they mirror us, you know, until they can mirror other things. And so the last thing that you want to happen is that something that, you know, your own yourself have learned and perpetuated to come into play when your child is at school. A student told my daughter, they were watching Frozen or something, like they were talking about Frozen, and so they love Frozen, like Frozen is a hit. So she was like, "You can't be Elsa, you're Black." My daughter was like, "What? I would be Elsa if I want to be Elsa," right? But it's those tough conversations that we really need to have with our children, because ultimately these are the young Muslims, right? We're trying to groom the next young Muslims who are going to be forced to work together, right? To ensure that our number one, our religion is represented in the proper way, right? And old Black grandmothers, they have a saying. You might be the only Bible that people read, right? Our children might be the only Quran people read. They also might be the only you that people read. So we have to be diligent. So the things that we know for a fact have no place in this religion, we have to make sure we extinguish them. My wife was on a forum, and they were talking about the sun being out too high, and we don't want our children to get darker, so we're going to keep them inside. Things we got to address, parents. You can't send your child into school with that thought pattern. Okay? And why does this all make sense within the realm of Black Lives Matter? Because it's the very little things. The same way Shaitan works. Shaitan does not get you to commit the horrible crime. It starts with very small things that you may think are insignificant as a parent and as people, that chips away, right, of how we even think and perceive people. And then finally, when things happen, when tragedies happen, you've already conditioned your mind to think people are lesser than by insignificant attitudes that we carry. So George Floyd, the brother who died from a knee to his neck, who was murdered from a knee to his neck, it wasn't just a knee. It was a shaitanic attitude of arrogance that has grown over years and centuries and decades that finally ends up in a result of that. The last thing I would say is that if we want to think about injustice as rain, okay, I'm go poetic. Injustice is rain. It's always happening, even though we might not even think about it, even though the rain may be soothing us to sleep. When someone dies in the way that George Floyd dies, that is if a lightning bolt popped through the rain. And then people say, oh my, they look up in the sky, what's happening? We have to take this very small moment we've seen of this lightning bolt and this unfortunate loss of life to be able to recognize the rain that has been going on for a very long time. And we have to make sure that we address it within ourselves first, have the hard conversations with our children, with ourselves. Don't let people degrade other people in your presence, and make sure that, Sister Afifa knows to connect with organizations who can provide education so that we can have these conversations in our homes, like Muslim Art in other places, and connect with your religious leaders who they've been doing overtime these last 3 months. And so they're the people that we lean on, because ultimately this is all about saving our souls, saving our children's souls, saving y'all souls. That's, you young folks, inshallah. So that's just what I had to just begin. And then inshallah, if y'all have any questions that I can answer with my limited knowledge, inshallah, I'll do my best to.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Brother Tariq. You may think you have unlimited knowledge, but you have such a big heart that knowledge is expansive to all of us. Alhamdulillah. I do have a question from an 8th grader that I'll start off, and I think Ismail might have some more coming into his chat. Mohamed from 8th grade is asking, how can we use our white privilege to protect those being oppressed?
I think number one, if you're a white student, I think the first thing that you can do is talk to your classmates and see how they want to, ask your classmates. Say, Adam, I've seen what's going on. If you feel like talking right now, I want to talk to you. And I just want to be able to just listen to what you're going through. And then what you want to do, just unfortunately, just by virtue of your skin color, you will experience a bit of a different world here. That's just how it is.
No.
When there are times, hold on, baby.
Mommy said we can't have it, but we're still getting a snack.
Okay, so the children are taking snacks right now.
So let them have.
You always want to insert yourself, inshallah. When you see somebody being bothered for the color of their skin, for something that's different about them, you want to make sure that you stand for them, right? You speak out against it, right? You say, hey, I know this is not right. And more so, you want to say, I know you wouldn't direct this at me because of how I look. You wouldn't direct this at me. And so you don't want to make sure that people are never being bullied on your watch, right? You want to make sure people will ultimately be appreciative of the fact that, like, you took the time to say something and stand up for something and stand up for somebody else, somebody other than yourself. That's the basis of Islam as us as Muslims, serving Allah's creation.
Thank you.
There's Mohamed.
You'll have to excuse me. My answers are going to be very interpersonal because I'm very deeply concerned about us in Suhbah and how we treat each other on a day-to-day basis. So they're going to be very interpersonal. Inshallah, let's please continue.
That's what we need. We need to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohamed, for your question. Ismail, do you have some more questions coming in that you want to read out?
I don't have any right now, but if I see some, then I'll make sure.
So just as we're wrapping it up with you, Tariq, because you have to go, are there any other terms or anything else that we as young people and then as parents, terminology? So we have talked about privilege, we talked about, oppression. Is there anything else that you could help us understand to be as important to understand as concepts? And then, we've already talked about why all lives matter is not something we're going to be, we've talked about it with the students. We've talked about the fact that Black Lives Matter, comes to the surface for a reason, but anything else that we should be thinking about terminology wise, even in the language that we use with each other, maybe.
Yeah. Definitely, I would say that it is not enough anymore, and it never was, for us to just be like, hey, I'm not racist. And I think many of you probably have seen the use of this language. We have to be anti-racist. And that means I'm actively rooting out the racism that I have within myself, that I may not even know that is in me, that I may not even know that's playing out in my mind. And it also means that I'm actively acting against people that are behaving in this way. I'm not sitting at dinner conversations allowing people to be called Abid, Khalu, the rest of these ways we talk about Black people and inferiority. I'm actively saying, hey, that's not right. Because a lot of times we giggle knowing that it ain't funny. We sit quiet knowing that it's not right. But we feel comfortable within ourselves because you say, maybe I didn't say that. I don't think that way. Well, we have to move to a different frontier of saying, I'm going to actively work within myself and the people that I know closely first, so that these things aren't said about other people and people aren't treated this way. You have to be anti-racist and active anti-racist. It is a verb. It continues to go on. Your mind is wrapped around it when these things are happening.
So the last thing is, because you're an advocate and I introduced you as that, can you give us hope? Like, what are people working on in the movement on different levels? Because you do a lot of entrepreneurship, you do a lot of advocacy for businesses, etc. What's something that gives us hope that is happening that we can support as individuals, but also learn about in that space of making Black Lives Matter?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. There is an organization called Believers Bailout. And I want us to think deeply about this. There's a large swath of the prison population that is not only Black, but that is Black and they're Muslim. And for many years, they've wondered, what does the larger community think about us? Are they worried about us? Are we on their minds? And so what Believers Bailout is doing is making sure that people who have been given cash bail, so cash bail is basically you have to pay your way out of prison. It could be for petty crimes, misdemeanors. They're allowing people to be able to pay their bail and come home to their families. So I want us to think about all the Muslim brothers and sisters, fathers, mothers, sons, nephews, daughters that have a $1,500 bail, but they're in prison, and we already know prisons are inhumane. So this is a long-term effort that's taking place right now, that people are engaged in. So it's called believersbailout.org. You all can go there, learn, donate, so that people suffering from being within prisons can be let free. And so that's one of the highest honors in Islam, is setting a prisoner free. I think beyond anything, George Floyd's death was a marker of a larger prison state, right? And if we're going to do anything that's long-term, I think eradicating and getting rid of cash bail and helping people with their cash bail goes so far. It goes so far. And I'm trying not to be long-winded, But I want us to think about a mother of 3 that randomly gets arrested, and because she doesn't have $2,000, she's gone from her children for 3 months. And I want us to think about that as parents. What would that even look like if just 8 p.m. tonight you were taken to a jail and then you didn't come home for 3 months? So we can literally change that with our resources right now, inshallah. And I would encourage you all to do that.
Thank you. Ismail, do you have anything you wanted to before Tariq needs to go?
Yes, I do have, alhamdulillah, I got a few questions. I'm not sure we'll be able to get to all of them. But one question was, should I, as a young person, either, or should my parents, or should I with my parents go and actively protest right now?
Mm.
Should we join the protests that are happening, whether in DC or somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one, I'm kind of lumping a few questions together, is a parent question about, well, how do I have that conversation with my kid related to either making friends with people of other races, and also if they make a comment in front of someone about, like, why is your skin so dark? Or I don't like this doll because their skin is so dark. What advice would you give to parents to have that conversation?
Well, number one about protesting, that is a judgment call you need to make as a parent. There are multiple just outcomes that can happen as a result of a protest. And if you all have been watching on TV, it's been a little bit chaotic. And so you want to be very careful about your children being in harm's way. However, as I always say, we need the youth to be youthful. So they're young for a reason, and they're young because they have the himma to go back after they've been repressed, and go back outside and go back outside and go back outside. So we just want to make that judgment call as a parent and make sure we understand what the stakes are, because we're still under sort of restrictions from COVID-19. And also just understand that you are walking into a volatile environment. You are walking into an environment where a lot can happen at once. So we need to make sure that we're prayed up. We have our dua before we go there. And as parents, you have to make that judgment call yourself. You all will not get Tariq to say, I told all the kids to go run out in the streets. As far as getting our children to, you say, if they say, oh, I don't like this doll because it's dark, we forget what is the most powerful question that our children ask us. Why? You ask them why. And then you let that unfold. You let that onion peel itself. Well, why is the doll being dark bad? And we wire ourselves into the deeper parts of what they may be seeing with themselves. And maybe that why might lead right back to us. It might lead back to the TV. It might lead back to some of the things that they're reading. But we need to ask our children why. I ask my children why 1 million times. I'll be like, y'all gonna ask me why? I'm gonna ask you why, right? So when the Elsa thing happened, I'm like, well, why can't you still be Elsa? Like, you still got a nice, pretty dress. You still, have these things. Like, why can't you still? I think you can still be Elsa, right? And if she says, oh, I can't be Elsa because I'm not this, princesses can't. Why can't princesses be dark skinned? And we let them whys take us where we need to go, because they definitely do it to us until no end. And we have no, like, we're cornered. We're like, okay, I see where you're going. That's the nasiha I would give for that. You question them, and they might, they may take you somewhere.
Jazakallah khairan.
Is that it, Ismail, or you got some more?
Just give me a minute here.
Okay.
Okay, one question is, part of what we're hearing is people are saying we should increase our advocacy. And so one of the ways to do that is through voting. Like students said, I'm not sure if my parents vote, so what should I do to maybe encourage them, or should I encourage them? What should I tell my parent about why they should vote and be involved?
Wow. I would say ask your parents, do they like the resources your school has? Do they like the parks that, one of the things moving to Virginia that I realized, I was like, Parks and Recreation have done their job here. I came from Maryland. It's night and day. Do we enjoy the roads that we drive down that don't have a whole bunch of potholes? Ask your parents for the students in our classes who are Black, that if their parents happen to suffer from one of these injustices that have happened around the country, would we want them to have a prosecutor that is equitable and acting in the name of justice because we elected them to that position? Or do we want to have somebody we didn't play any part in that doesn't care about our rights or anything like that? We want our classmates to suffer from that. I would ask those questions, and I would charge them to tell them, go ahead and vote. And also, Tariq told you to do this. Y'all get the voting registration stuff mailed to your house. You know what your parents' information is. Y'all fill it out when you're trying to do the credit card information for Xbox stuff and all that. So fill it out for them. Easy. Tell them, hey, I got your voter registration card. I filled it out for you. All you got to do is go vote.
Now you gave us my other ideas too. All right, well, we want to respect your time. Dear brother Tariq, you have been just what we needed. I really do feel that. Alhamdulillah. And may Allah bless you, bless your family.
Thank you.
Preserve your heart in the way that it is, inshallah, and give you all the sustenance you need in your health, in your spirit, in your mind, and bring you back to us as often as possible, inshallah.
Thank you all so much. Assalamu alaikum. Please take care of yourselves, love up on each other, and Allah is going to see us through this.
Ameen. You can stay on as long as you want, by the way, but I know you needed to go, so.
Oh, I'm going to mute myself, inshallah.
All right, that's fine. All right, so inshallah now, with that beautiful introduction and connection that we had with our beloved brother Tariq, we're going to not really shift gears, but just continue down a continuum of the path and have Imam Magid come in and give us some advice, continuation of nasiha for sure. And then Imam Magid, I think, we talked about giving us a grounding in spirituality and giving us a sense of, what do we need to be doing, but also how should we be thinking about what's happening around us as young people and as parents, both in terms of what we should be, how our hearts should be right now, because everything is about the heart and where it comes from and where it's going. So what advice do you have for us as people of the community and as we are watching things unfold at this time? So please, we would love to hear from you.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Appreciate Al-Fatiha Academy, thank you Sister Afifa and Brother Ismail and the team of Al-Fatiha Academy, Sister Praveen and everyone who helped to put this together. I would like to speak to young people first.
Please.
If you don't mind. When I was growing up, my grandfather was a very sweet man. Matter of fact, yesterday, I was looking for, looking to my album because, I'm staying home, locked down, like any one of you. Therefore, I'm looking for all stuff sometimes in my free time to do, if I have any free time. Then I found a picture of my grandfather, carrying a pot in a village in this very small, home made of these palm trees, or the place of rest he used to sit and make wudu. And I used to observe him making his wudu in a very nice way, like he was like celebrating, about to pray, and he would make it so slowly. For that picture, I said, wow, I didn't know I have that picture. Brought a lot of memory to me. He told me something very interesting. You know what he told me? He said, every human being you see is a potential being the closest person to God Almighty. And he said to me, do not make fun, look down to any human being who look different from you. Especially he was telling us as children, sometimes we might see somebody maybe not wearing nice clothes, or the clothes are dirty, and maybe a poor person. And he said, don't ever think that person who's so poor and their clothes does not show that they're rich. They are not very rich in their heart. And then he said to me the same thing about how the person look. That's really stuck with me for a long time. And, when I came to the United States, as a Black man, but I didn't grow up in America. I had a professor. I was taking classes in the Maryland University College. And he said to me, I want you to watch a movie. And I get excited. I said, what kind of movie? Like suggesting. I said to myself, better to be a movie that is not bad. Nothing bad in it. He said to me, there's something called Eyes on the Prize. Eyes on the Prize. This young guys, this is a movie, a documentary about civil rights movements in America. Then I said, oh, at that time, there's no DVD, like this big, I don't know, this become like an ancient history, a video cassette, like that big. And I didn't have a machine myself. And I said to him, listen, I'm a poor student. I don't have a video machine in my home. He said, no, you can go to the library, watch it. I sat for hours, listening to this video, because they give you this big headphone at the time that to put so you don't disturb the other people next to you. And I realized, oh my God, everyone looked like me before I came to this country. They have a hard time, and they continue to have hard time and difficult time. And here I'm coming in with no clue what it looked like to be a Black person in America. And the lights went on in my head. Wow. Then I become angry to that. Then I watch things about Malcolm X. Then I heard about Roots when I was a kid in Sudan. Roots was one of the series Sudanese used to love, but we were small children at the time, young people who didn't watch it as others. Then I watched the series of Roots, and I realized that any person want to know anything about any people, you have to know their history. And that's why 1/3 of the Quran are stories. And you read in the Quran the story of Musa alayhi salam, and how scared was his mother from the oppressions and mistreatment of children who don't look like the rest of Egypt at the time. She was worried about him. And God Almighty says, put him into the water. And then his sister, very brave young lady, I have 5 daughters, 2 of them with you guys, she took the mission. And she went to the house of Pharaoh, actually. Followed her brother, because her mother said, you can do it. You're brave. Follow your brother. And she followed her brother. And she ended up in the palace of Pharaoh. And she was a reason that Musa alayhi salam was united again with his mother. Well, young people can do something. Then I read in Muslim history that there's so many companions of the Prophet. They were identified as African companions, as Black companions. As a matter of fact, there's a whole book called The Black Companions of the Prophet. Yeah, The Black Companions of the Prophet. And sometimes I used to like wonder when I was a child, and I asked my dad, I said, Dad, why does people identify these people as Black? Because I'm Sudanese and everyone in Sudan is Black. And what Sudan actually means, the land of Blacks. Therefore, we don't have frame of reference. Why people have to identify someone as Black? I said, why? And my father said to me, there was a lot of prejudice in that community and that society that the Prophet Muhammad was sent to. The Quran wanted to change people's perspective of color and race by saying to them in Surah Al-Hujurat that no one should belittle another person or look down to them. Maybe the person you look down is better than you. And the Quran addressing racism in so many verses. There's about 35 verses in the Quran addressing the issue of racism. And many hadith of Rasulullah. Therefore, it's very important to see why the Sahaba would identify as Black. Like there's a Black lady, Namhanna, from Ethiopia. She used to help to clean the masjid, cleaning the mosque. And when you read the text in the hadith, it says there was a Black lady. Why are you calling her Black? The intentionally they're saying that to show you that in society people were proud of, they made proud of their ethnicity, made proud of their color. Therefore, she was cleaning the masjid, and then she passed away. For Rasulullah asked about her, she said she passed away. I wouldn't want to disturb you. They have belittled her position, her job. Like she's not important, she's not an elite, she's just cleaning the masjid. And the Prophet ﷺ said, no. You should not have done that. You should have told me and should have prayed janazah on her. And then he went and took the companions and prayed janazah on her grave. Now, few things we need to know. You know, Quran said all human beings, black and white and between and the yellow and the green and the orange and the pink, everyone was made of dirt, dust, soil, made of soil. And then when a person dies, then people put them back to the soil. That's why the Quran says, from the soil, from the dust, we created you, all of human being, and to it will return you back, and for me to bring you back. Therefore, the number one thing about this whole issue, as Brother Tariq eloquently said to you, racism is an arrogant behavior and it stems from a disease, the disease of the heart. The person, there's sickness in their heart, they have to clean their heart. And how to clean their heart? With humility. Not to believe that there's anyone less than us because of the way they look. Because no human being made themselves. You know, the beautiful things in this religion of Islam that made what they call it brotherhood. They brought every person matched with another person in Medina. And Rasulullah mixed them. They come from different cultures. Says, okay, this Bilal, this is Salman. Bilal is African. Salman was Persian. And Suhaib was Romans. He said, okay, mix them with the other Arabs. He didn't put all the foreigners together. Like, oh, you guys, you know, make your own club there. He mixed them so that people get to know one another. In your school, if you see somebody, their hair doesn't look like your hair, or the lips doesn't look like your lips, or the nose doesn't look like your nose. You should not ever question the creation of God. And do not have this misconception of what beauty will look like. Even in the creation of Allah, that you have to celebrate every creation of Allah. All of them are beautiful. That's why Imam Malik saw this man walking in the street, and he saw a dog. And he said, "Oh, this dog doesn't look good." And he said to him, Imam Malik was behind him, he said, "What's wrong with you? Are you objecting the creator or the creature?" Yeah, like saying to God, "Oh, you didn't do a good job. God, really did a good job." God could have created all people Sudanese. It's not going to be a good idea. Like God will not have done that, because it will be very boring to everybody. Okay? It has to be Sudanese, South Asian, it has to be Arabs, have to be white, black, and everything by design. So that you can celebrate it. You can enjoy that. Last things I want to say to you, young people, when I was a kid, we were playing on the street, and we didn't used to have like nice toys. We used to make our own toys. Okay, and we had a kid that his father worked in trash company, collect trash. And one of the kids, he said to him, he said to this young man, "Do you know that maybe you can ask your father if they find anything that nice on those trash, we can come and use it to play with?" The kid does not come for 3 days to play with us. 3 days. And we were troubled what happened. And then we went and asked him, "So, oh, they come and play with us." He said, "For what had been said to me by that kid." And we said, "Oh, you shouldn't get upset." And my uncle said, "Don't ever tell someone you should not get upset. Don't ever tell a person you should not get upset. But if you see somebody hurt, upset because of something we said to them, don't say, 'Oh, why are you upset? I was just joking.' No, you should apologize to that person. You should acknowledge the pain of the person. That's why today in America, people are very in pain. And no one should question their pain, because this has been going for years. That's why the best thing you do to listen when the person says I'm in pain. Now my advice to the parent, I like what Brother Tariq did. Whatever you say in that living room, your children are hearing it. If you tell your children don't play with those people or that people, the children knowing that, they're hearing it. When we make a remark or a joke, a racist joke, our children are hearing that. But it's very important for all of us to be careful what we say and how do we relate virtues to our children. And really, finally, I want to say, I'm very happy to see the amount of effort that the school is doing in teaching people the virtue of mercy, virtue of love. Those are the virtue that should not be the role of the school only, but the role of people at home as well. It has to be, we take those values that our children learn in the school, we reinforce them in our home so that we have this beautiful collaboration between the school and the parents. And we have to address racism in our own community. We do have racism in the Muslim community, and we have to address us before you point finger to anyone else. This is just really my sharing about how can we humble ourselves and listen to people. And when you see injustice, we should hate it at least with our heart. We should speak against it, but the least things you can do is not to get desensitized. You know, you cannot just say, I'm not a racist, as Brother Tariq just said beautifully. You can say, I'm against racism. To be proactive, to stand for what is just, and to be there for those people who are in need. That is my few words of reflection.
I always like listening to stories of when you were a child, because it brings it, now we understand you because of how you were as a child, and that's for all of us. And I think one of the advices I've heard for parents is we should talk to our children about our childhoods and give them those stories, because some of the things that we're experiencing now come from our childhood as well. And sometimes the trauma we face, we should also share, or the difficulties we had and mistakes that we made, we should share with our children as well as the good things. So inshallah, we'll be good with that. I know you have to go, Imam Magid. I'm just waiting for if there are any questions anybody has for Imam Magid as far as what he's shared with us, the nasiha he gave us. We are recording this, so we'll be able to, inshallah, those people that couldn't benefit from being with us, sitting with us today, they will be able to benefit from it another time, inshallah. And I think, you know, what both of you said, which is so important in your ending, which is to, Brother Tariq said it has to be a verb, right? We have to take action, and we have to be anti-racist, not just be against racism, but we ourselves have to be anti-racist. So the more that we can learn about that and learn how to do it, inshallah, that's what we're concerned about and we are building on, inshallah. So we'll do that as much as possible in our lives. Of course, this is our last week of school. We won't be seeing everybody, even in this way on screens for a while, but we're inshallah hoping, and I'm talking to parents now and students as well, we're hoping to keep our communication and connection like this going, because we need it, and we need for each other to build our own our hearts and the spaces that we have in our hearts for each other. So inshallah, what we're hoping to do is continue to share resources as well, and share ways that we can build our both our iman, which is our faith, and also our ihsan, which is the way that we behave, and then also the knowledge that we need to be able to make things active, as you both said. So we appreciate all of you coming. We appreciate this conversation, and inshallah, Imam Magid, I know you're on standby. We can pull you in at any time that you're available. And although your girls are graduating, we inshallah through them can just keep together, inshallah.
Thank you for the nice surprise the other day.
Yes,
graduation.
So excited to do that. Alaikum salam. You have somebody beautiful with you, little.
Yeah, it's just
person.
Isa.
Isa, thank you for sharing your Baba with us. Alhamdulillah. Okay, well, for the time, we're just wrapping up as well. We want to thank you. So on again, thank you for your time, your effort, and again, we're always praying for you and always praying for your health in way and your well-being, and inshallah we can help you in any way we can with that, inshallah. So we'll just go ahead and conclude then, and we ask Allah to give us all the mercies that we need, that we don't even know. We ask Allah to make it easy for us in our days and our nights, in the ways that we think about things, the way that we behave, the way that we interact, and we ask Allah to give us the guidance we need to be as close to Him as possible in the way that we treat each other, and for us to really be concerned about how we are in our lives and in our interactions with each other. We ask Allah to give us enough love for each other, so that we know that the love for Him permeates through everything, inshallah. Okay, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for joining us. Inshallah, we'll see you again sometime soon. You can check out our website. We have some resources there for those of you that are not familiar with the school. We've been consolidating as much as we can, so you can find it there. If you have suggestions, please give us those. We can add as well, inshallah, to www.alfatih.org. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Miss Afifa.